E-call came at 8:03 a.m., and by 8:07 I was no longer employed. I didn't even have time to collect my thoughts, let alone my dignity. 4 days after my wife's funeral, my brother-in-law, my late wife's own brother, smiled across the polished mahogany desk and said, "You're done here." I nodded. I walked out. Everyone thought I was broken. Everyone thought they had won. No one suspected I was already invisible but watching, already calculating. Before all this, life had been ordinary, predictable. I had a wife who laughed too loud, loved too fiercely, and trusted me with everything. I had a company I built from scratch, sleepless nights, and years of sacrifice poured into it. The board called me CEO in everything but name. My family, my life, was anchored in trust. Trust is fragile. The first red flags were subtle. Little lies here and there. Offhand comments about taking over the business. A smirk when he offered condolences that didn't reach his eyes. I brushed it off. My grief blurred my instinct. But grief is a slow lens. It sharpens eventually. 4 days after her funeral, he fired me. In the hallways, whispers followed like shadows. Colleagues avoided my gaze. They didn't know. None of them knew I owned 65% of the company. My shares weren't just numbers on a balance sheet. They were leverage, silent and lethal. I didn't scream. I didn't confront him. That would have been amateur. I froze. I let the shock settle. And then I began to move. Preparation isn't a moment, it's a ritual. I started quietly, methodically. I pulled the company's books, traced every contract, every deal he'd touched. I noted every unauthorized signature, every minor infraction he'd overlooked, thinking it was harmless. I recorded conversations, not because I wanted to humiliate, but because facts never lie. Every message, every call, every whispered ambition was documented. My grief gave me patience. My patience gave me power. By Friday, I had a dossier heavy enough to sink a ship. But I didn't act. Not yet. Timing is everything. I waited for Monday. Monday morning, I walked back into the office. My shoes echoed against the marble floor, a slow, deliberate percussion. He looked up from his desk, surprised. His surprise turned to unease when he noticed the briefcase in my hand. I didn't rush. I didn't yell. I opened it on the glass conference table. The air tasted sharp. Everyone gathered, sensing tension, the quiet before the storm. Contracts, emails, signed approvals. Evidence of all his missteps. And then I slid the final document across, my ownership certificate, 65%. Right there, in full color, undeniable. Interesting, isn't it? I said. My voice was calm, smooth. No anger, just the quiet weight of inevitability. His face drained. That smug superiority, the one that burned so bright 4 days ago, flickered, then vanished. He opened his mouth, but no words came. Everyone else watched, stunned, as the shift unfolded in real time. I let silence do half the work. Silence is louder than shouting. "You fired me," I said finally. Thought it would be easy. Thought no one would notice. I paused. He swallowed. I leaned forward. "You didn't check the records. You didn't read the fine print. You didn't realize the most important part of this company was mine." The room was still. His humiliation was complete, subtle, and savage. Colleagues whispered. Some chuckled behind their hands. Power had a new owner. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. Satisfaction isn't in revenge. It's in the precision of its execution. I simply walked to the boardroom window, looked out at the city skyline, and let him stew in the office that no longer belonged to him. By noon, he was negotiating quietly, humbling himself, trying to salvage what he could. I listened with measured interest, never raising my voice, never letting him see the satisfaction carved into my bones. The board confirmed my majority stake. My silence had spoken louder than any scream of betrayal could have. The irony was delicious. He had inherited the title, the desk, the illusion of power, but none of the substance. All the while, I had remained invisible, untouchable, lethal. Grief had made me patient. Betrayal had made me unstoppable. As I signed the new directives, reinstated loyal management, and quietly reshuffled responsibilities, I felt a clarity I hadn't known in days. My wife's absence still ached, but the future, my company, my legacy was intact. And he knew, finally, exactly how wrong he'd been. Revenge isn't messy. It's meticulous, cold, calculated, silent until it lands. I returned to my office, closed the door, and exhaled for the first time in a week. The boardroom behind me buzzed with the aftermath, but I was calm, masterful, untouched by panic. Next Monday had been interesting. It had been lethal, and I smiled, not because he fell, but because I rose.